Hello and welcome to the Precipice podcast. It's awesome to have you with us today. Here at Precipice, we believe that we are redefining success and helping you become more effective and efficient at what you do. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second episode on communication. Last week, we spoke a bit about what is communication and we introduced the topic. But this week, Mtoko is going to be talking quite a bit about how we do public communication. But before we do that, Mtoko, how are you doing?
Bro, I'm doing so good. How are you doing?
I'm also so good. I've been so busy with a whole bunch of side projects. And obviously, I have a full-time job as a e-commerce coordinator. So I work for an online store.
Yeah.
And then I've got a side project called Precipice.
Yeah.
But then I've also got a side business that I'm trying to start up,
Yeah.
which is like a web dev business. Web dev / marketing. And I've been chatting with a friend to try get that up and running. So life's been busy.
Listen, explain to me, what is like an e-commerce coordinator? Like I'm just sitting and thinking, like, what does that mean? What does that actually look like?
Okay, so my job, well, let's rewind a bit.
Yeah.
By trade, I'm a web developer, so I can sit down and I can code websites. But then along the way, I got interested in video editing and photography and marketing and various other things. And all those skills together sort of, and I guess my leadership skills as well, sort of culminated in this ability to have a holistic view of a team. And this company where I used to work as a web developer, they actually asked me to come back, and I came back and they're like, well, we actually want you to manage our media team. And when they say media team, it was a group of 6 people. There's a graphic designer, 2 web developers, a data person, an SEO person, that's search engine optimization. In short, that person basically makes sure you get found on Google.
Yeah.
And then there was someone else, a social media, like digital marketing person. And my job was basically just to make sure they were all working on something and to make sure that they're working towards a common goal. So I mean, like, if the social media guy is marketing one product, but the whole company's trying to sell another product, it makes no sense. So it was sort of making sure that everyone was working towards one unified goal in a team.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So that's my job.
Yeah.
The team's taken quite a few knocks because of like layoffs and people have resigned. I mean, obviously, like the past year has been really hectic with the economy and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been interesting. I've learned a lot, but I've always had like this niggle inside to like go and start my own business. So now I'm like, you know what, this is it. I'm going to do it. And the fact that we're working from home is like the perfect opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for making my week sound like it's useless. I've just been doing schoolwork. So, I mean, I wish I could say I had a job or something cool like that. But no, I've just been working on schoolwork, which is crazy. Actually, funny enough, on Friday, I had a quiz for one of my modules, my marketing module. And I'm busy sitting at home. It's like 6:30 in the evening. A friend of mine is over, so we're playing PlayStation, playing FIFA. It's just chilled.
Yeah.
And then someone sends me a text. So I had sent that person a text earlier in the day. I'd honestly forgotten. They sent me a text. They're like, "Oh, hey, sorry for the late response. I was just doing the marketing quiz." And I'm like, wait, what? Like in my head, it's like panic mode.
Like that moment where your heart just drops.
Bro, I'm just like, no. So I'm like, I don't even respond to their text. I go online to check, do I still have time to do this? Because I mean, 6:30, I thought it was closed. Luckily, it closed at 7:30. So I rush online, I do this quiz. And the greatest thing is that during that week, we had done like 2 revision quizzes for this one quiz. So the quiz was pretty similar to the revision quizzes. So it wasn't as bad. But honestly, I freaked out. I like freaked out. A friend of mine just left like 10 minutes in. He's like, "Bro, I'm going to go. I don't want to disturb you," because I was like on full on panic mode. But Yeah, I'm a laugh, but yeah,
That's
it's
crazy. The
crazy.
life of a student,
But it's insane, honestly. Like you forget stuff, especially because you're working from home. Like
yeah,
at least when you have a lecturer, they constantly remind you, hey, you got this test or whatever, whatever.
yeah,
They sent us an email like 2 weeks ago. How do you expect me to remember something you said
yeah,
2 weeks ago? But I mean, yeah, it's cool.
yeah,
I'm doing well,
yeah.
I guess, without forgetting stuff that I need to do from school.
Yeah, man, that's quite something. Yeah. Like, I'm
Yeah,
so glad I'm not studying anymore.
listen, it's crazy.
So, speaking of freaking out, and
Yeah,
this is going to segue into our topic
yeah,
today. I was asked to do a lecture
okay,
again,
yeah,
and what this entailed was someone basically said, "Hey, Ross, here is a whole bunch of notes,
yeah,
and you have to be here at 9 o'clock, and there's going to be a whole bunch of people, and you have to lecture them." And I
yeah,
was like, okay, cool, because like I'm a fairly confident person. I'm fairly confident of my abilities, but for me, public speaking, which is what we're talking about today,
yeah,
has never really been a natural thing to come to me.
okay,
I've had to work hard to get better at it. So what I'm hoping to do is that you can shed some light on that. So with this whole this lecture thing, obviously I was given these notes, I pitch up there, and I mean, I was told the day before, so I wasn't well prepared. I
yeah,
go through it, I read through it. I'm like, hey, let me try and make it interesting. Let me
yeah,
tell a funny story about this. Like one time, this thing happened to me. But at the end of the speech, I still felt like I could have done better.
yeah.
So before we start, what is public communication? You want to shed some light on that for us? What is public communication versus private communication?
So public communication is where there is a singular person or maybe an interview or whatever, but it's a person giving like a monologue and just talking to people and sharing information to a group of people
Mm.
who are sitting, listening, or standing, or whatever it may be at that point.
Yeah, so we've seen a lot of that with like the coronavirus, with like Cyril
Yeah.
Ramaphosa. And what's fascinated me about that is like how slowly he talks. It's actually
Yeah.
frustrated me.
Yeah.
Like I won't watch his speeches just because he talks so slowly.
Mm.
So now, like, let's say I was given this opportunity to give this talk again. What would you say is a good place to start? Like, where do I start? Like, how do I improve my talk?
So, well, I think for me, firstly, like the very beginning is to understand why you're giving this talk or why you're communicating to whoever you're communicating with. It's like, what's the point of your message? What's the point of what you're trying to say? What is it that you're trying to communicate to people? And I think that's so important to actually understand from the beginning that, okay, this is the goal of my talk. Because there's nothing more frustrating than listening to someone talk about, let's say, guns, and then halfway through they're talking about a swimming pool. It's
Yeah.
like, bro, listen, I get tangents, but like, how do we get to swimming pools? You get what I'm saying? So it's so crucial to understand the point of your talk, why you're saying what you're saying,
Yeah.
what is it that you're trying to communicate, instead of just, going out there and just randomly speaking, unless if it's a free topic, then hey, be my guest. But even with those, you got to understand, what's the point actually of my talk?
So you're saying that I must start with the end in mind, and say, for example, I'm the CEO of a company,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to inspire my employees through a rough patch in the company. That an inspirational talk is going to be very different to the informational talk where I'm trying to get information across. Is that right?
Yeah. No, it's definitely right. And so understanding why you're giving the talk will sort of inform how you say what you say. If I'm coming to tell people about a deadly disease like coronavirus, I mean, it makes sense why, like, the president would speak slowly and take his time, because he wants people to really understand. If I'm talking and I just want to tell you a funny joke, I'm going to be more lively. I'm going to be like a bit quicker in the way I speak or whatever it may be. So understanding the points sort of informs the direction and how you actually give your talk.
So I think we're going to talk about this a bit later, and I'm pretty keen to talk about it. But like, one really memorable talk that my boss gave to us the company was going through a rough patch. This is before coronavirus. So for our company, it's been like super rough because it was like a rough patch, and then we go into the coronavirus. But what he did is he pitches up to the office, and he's got this massive box of jelly tots, and he gives this talk, and he's like, and then he starts talking about this company that's bigger than us, bigger than our company, but does pretty much the same thing. And there's like corruption and all sorts. And he's like, don't be this company, be Jelly Tots. And we're like, what? Why must it be Jelly Tots? He's like, Jelly Tots were first invented in like 1920. I can't remember. It's like they've been around for ages. And he's like, through thick and thin, they've always been there. The brand's always been there. The company's always been there. He's like, we're going to be a Jelly Tots. No matter what happens to us, we're going to pull through and just keep doing what we're doing. And like that was so significant because he gave everyone in the company a packet of Jelly Tots. He's like, be a Jelly Tots. Like I'll never forget that speech.
That's so cool. That's actually so cool, and I think that speaks into how you make your talk memorable or like interesting. You know, when you find something that like sort of connects with your talk and something that people can hold on to and something that people can think back to if they see oh yeah, someone's once said this to me about this or whatever it may be, like it makes it more memorable and it helps you remember. So honestly, that sounds so cool and brilliant, honestly.
And I mean, we're still talking about like, what is the point? Like, I mean, we've all been in a meeting where we've been like, that honestly could have been an email. Yeah. And in that case, it's generally just better to keep it short. Am I right? Just say what needs to be said and then to just get on with it.
100%.
Now we know what the point is, but like, where do I start? What do I do next?
Yeah. Well, it's so crucial to be able to prepare. So being prepared is the most important thing. And obviously some people may listen to that and be like, yeah, but that's so obvious. You know, but I feel sometimes we are never fully prepared to give a talk, and that's what hinders us sometimes. So being prepared starts literally from understanding the point and structuring out what you're going to say. Having a structure is so important. So now, obviously, the way I prepare may be so different to the way you prepare. I mean, you've seen my notes. My notes are weird.
They're flipping all over the place.
they're all over the place, and yours are more organized and structured. So the way we prepare might be different, but the principles are still the same. You need to prepare. You need to have a beginning where you're starting, like, okay, your opening remarks, sort of introducing your topic or whatever it may be. You need to have a body of how, okay, these are the main points of my talk or main points of my talk. Some people say that actually having a 1-point talk is more effective than having a multiple point talk. I mean, it depends on what you're talking about.
So what you're saying there is, if I give a talk, it's better to say, I'm going to go back to the whole CEO of a company.
Yeah.
Let's just say I'm a business owner. And I'm trying to get a point across to my employees.
Yeah.
It's better to tackle one problem at a time instead of just give them like 10 points and say, guys, you need to make more sales. You need to stop like messing in the toilets. You need to stop leaving your teaspoons all over the office. And like, also, by the way, did you know we're cutting salaries by 10%? Like that's so much information in one talk. So what you're saying, sometimes it may be better to just have 1 point and then prepare the entire talk around that.
Yeah, no, it's 100% better because I think that way people remember it more. It's more impactful than rather you're telling me 16 different things and you expect me to remember. Listen, I'm not going to remember like the first 10 points you've mentioned. So it's just easier to have 1 or 2 points, and I'm not saying specifically having one because sometimes you need more than one, but keep it as simple as you possibly can. Have as little points as you possibly can and just emphasize on the main points. Like with the example that you just made. I mean, people messing around in the toilets, yeah, okay, it might be a problem, but is it that big of an issue than salary cuts? So leaving people messing around in the toilets might be worth it, and just, you know, have it as a short conversation in the tea room or whatever it may be, but it shouldn't be like a main point in your talk. So it's so important to find what's the main points, what are the key things that I want to get out, and focus your talk around those issues and try and keep it as simple as possible, because I mean, as much as people are listening, they're not going to remember everything. So try to keep it as simple as you possibly can.
So we're talking about like keeping or being prepared.
Yeah.
So I've prepared my message. I've written down my points. I sort of understand the structure, but don't I need to internalize the message so I know
Yeah.
what I'm going to say?
No, I think that is probably one of the most important parts of preparation. And I think that's possibly something that most people leave out is go over your message. For me, I know if I'm going to give a talk, I go over my message as if I'm speaking it to people multiple times before I even say it officially. Just go over it, look at yourself in the mirror. If you think that's too weird, go outside, go in your room, wherever it be, just go over your message. Know it. For me, one of the things that I try to do is know the conclusion, the beginning. So the beginning of my talk and the first point and the conclusion of the heart. So that even if my notes somehow vanished, I know what I was going to say at the beginning and the first point and even the conclusion of my talk, so that you just feel more confident and you back yourself a bit more when you know what you're going to say. Nothing sucks more than listening to someone every 2 words they're like and it's like, bro, just be prepared, know what you want to say. And I'm saying maybe you say as a person, that's fine, but at least be prepared and know what you want to say. Sound confident, sound like you actually believe in what you're saying. Because if you don't, why am I?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's a massive difference between someone saying amen and ahing, and like when you can genuinely hear that someone is passionate about what they're talking about. I mean, we've all listened to a talk where someone was like, and you listen to a talk by Martin Luther King, and you're like, this is incredible. This is so inspirational. And I guarantee you the best talkers probably prepare their speeches over and over and over and over. And this was a misconception I always had. I always thought like the best talkers would like just have their notes, figure out what they were going to say, and then get up and then just say it, and they're like freaking nailed it. But there's obviously a lot of work that went in behind the scenes.
Yeah, and I mean, I believe maybe it gets easier. Possibly, it gets easier for you to get to that point where you just get up and you look at your notes and you pull out a phenomenal talk, even if you hadn't prepared that much, and that comes with time. And I think the worst thing that we could do is look at someone who's able to do that and think that we can wake up tomorrow and do the same. Unfortunately, you can't. That person is probably on their step 20 of their public talks journey, and you're on step 1 and you're thinking it'll be the same. You're not.
You're saying it definitely takes practice.
It definitely does take practice. It takes time for you to get to that level. I'm not saying you can't get there, but you won't if you just think you'll get up and be like that. No, work on it. Practice your talks. Familiarize yourself with it. Get used to talking to people. Get used to doing all these different things, and one day maybe you'll be like that or even better. So yeah.
That's helpful. That's so helpful. So now we know that before we get up to make a speech, we need to know what the point is. What's the end in mind? We know that we need to be prepared to deliver that point. But how can I be more confident? Like, I mean, we've all, well, I'm not going to say all, I guess some people are naturally more confident than others, but I'm sure there's people out there that have gotten up in front of a whole bunch of people and felt like, crap, what the heck am I doing with my life? Like, so how do we feel more confident when we're talking?
Yeah. I think for me, find stuff that you're familiar with to talk about. So one of those things is firstly practicing and being familiar with your message, but also adding stories. You know, when you tell a story, it not only puts the audience at ease, but it also puts you at ease. It's like, you think back to it maybe fondly or whatever it is, but you don't think back to it and thinking of, oh my God, I'm giving this talk. You're actually just sharing a life experience or something that you've heard, and it puts you at ease and it helps you to speak better. It helps you just to be more relaxed or whatever it may be. Find something to focus on. And so I don't want to say one thing, but find multiple things depending on your audience. If it's like a bigger crowd where you have to look around, looking around is so important, by the way. But if you have to look around, as you look to the different spots, focus on one thing so that just keeps you at ease. Focus on a familiar face, focus on a clock or whatever it may be, but something that just puts you at ease and helps you speak better. Because if you're just staring at people's faces, guess what? They're staring back and they're a bit scared.
And I'm talking from experience, like when delivering like lecture and giving other talks before.
Yeah.
like there's nothing worse than an RBF. Like
Yeah.
someone with just a straight face,
Yeah.
and you're like, am I making an impact on these
Yeah.
people? Are they like interested? Are they engaged?
Yeah.
So speaking of, are they interested? Are they engaged? How do I make a talk interesting?
Stories. Tell stories. Just stories. I remember the one time, so it's probably one of the first talks I've ever given, and it was just structured. I had no stories. It was just points after points after points, and I was just and like halfway through, I looked at the people's faces and I was like, are they even getting what I'm saying? And then at that point, I just thought of some random story. I told the story, and I saw people get more relaxed, and they were sort of more responsive or engaging. And obviously, they weren't like talking back, but you could see like a change in their demeanor. So stories are so helpful. If you tell a story, it just helps a person relax more, engage more. It's better for you. So more interesting stories.
No, absolutely. And I think one thing that stories do is they evoke a sense of emotion out of people. And really with a talk, I guess what you're trying to do is you're trying to create emotions that sort of convince people to believe what you're saying.
Yeah.
So if you can get those people to feel what you want them to feel, you can basically get your point across.
Yeah.
I mean, like take for example, if you tell a joke, people are going to be more relaxed. But if you tell like an insane, hectic story about the time your dog got killed by a car, people are going to be like super tense.
Yeah, but also I think it depends. Don't force humor. I've seen so many people try force humor to the crowd, and I mean, if you're not funny, you're not funny.
Yeah,
that's
don't
okay.
try to be funny.
Don't try to be funny if you're not.
Yeah,
and that's okay if you're not, because if you're forcing humor, it's just not going to end well, and it's just going to make things awkward. Have you ever listened to someone trying to tell a joke but it's not funny?
Yeah.
So now it's just awkward and tense, and they're like, "Oh my god,
we all had that teacher.
What do I do? You know, like, can I go into a hole and you just cringe? You know, so if you're not funny,
don't try.
Don't try it. You know, just be natural. Be as natural as possible. People don't necessarily only respond to humor, but they respond to authenticity. So be authentic to who you are. Just speak your truth. Speak from who you are. Don't try to be someone else.
Yeah.
And when you do that, more often than not, you will get your points across, and people will hear you because you're being genuine. People look for the genuine. They don't look for the fluff. And the forced humor and the forced stories, that's the fluff.
Yeah.
But when you're being genuine, that's what people respond to.
Yeah, and I guess with a lot of stories, like most, I'm not going to say most stories, but there's a lot of stuff that people can relate to. I mean, a lot of people have had like a pet dog, for example, dumb example. So if you tell a story about your dog dying, everyone's like, shame, I also have a dog, and they can relate to that. Same with like a relative that's dying. But then on the same like sort of idea, if you tell a really happy story, people can relate to that happiness, I guess.
Yeah, but don't overkill it on the stories also.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's a balance that you need to find. It's like, stories are necessary, but stories can also be overkill, and like people are like, okay, get to the point. You get what I'm saying? So it's good to have stories, but it's also good to get to the point and don't talk for longer than you need to, honestly.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I guess it's not just stories. I guess you could tell interesting facts as well, or because I mean, at the end of the day, and that's why we start with what is the end in mind? What is the whole point? So you start with what the point is, and then you sort of work backwards, and anything that backs up that point, you throw it in. And what you will want to do when you're preparing is really scrutinize your notes and say, does this get the point across? And if it doesn't, you need to cut that fat out.
Yeah. And I think with that question, does it get the point across? I think the most important thing that you could do is that if you gave this talk to a 10-year-old, would they understand? And obviously some things you can't oversimplify, because you don't want to treat people like they're stupid or whatever and patronize them. But also you need to make your talk as simple as it possibly can be, so that people can like easily understand what you say. No one wants to listen to someone who's a know-it-all and makes you feel like an idiot. Yeah, I like, if I'm listening to your talk, I don't want you to make me feel like an idiot. If there's stuff I don't understand, I'll ask, but don't make me feel like an idiot. So try keep it as simple as possible. And I mean, obviously some things you can't dumb down, but where you can simplify, simplify it
Yeah.
so that people can like easily understand what you're talking about.
And I think when you can simplify something, you can communicate it better.
Yeah.
And Albert Einstein said, you only truly know something when you can say it in one sentence. So I think at the same time, I think it all like can like knits together. If you know what you're talking about and you've simplified your topic, you'll come across more confidence because you don't trip over your words and you're not trying to think of like, okay, how do I get this thing across? How do I portray this message?
Yeah.
You know it because you can say it in one sentence and then elaborate on that.
Yeah.
Cool. So do we have like a framework to sort of help people give better public talks?
100%. So there's this guy named Andy Stanley, who has come up with this 5-point framework for giving a talk, and so you can go look him up. He's a brilliant communicator, and so he gives these sort of 5 points, and I mean some of the stuff that we've spoken about already allude to this 5 points, and some are different, but it's sort of similar.
Well, we both massive fans of Andy Stanley, so it's no surprise there that we've borrowed a lot of ideas from him. Yeah,
no, 100%. And because he's so good, it's sort of influenced the way we also communicate and think about communication. And so the first thing is, and it sort of goes back to our first point, is, okay, what do the people listening to your talk need to know? What is it that they need to know? And obviously they need to know information. You're giving information to people, and one of the greatest way to do this is to have a bottom line. If you can summarize your entire talk in one sentence, it just makes it so much easier for people to understand and sort of relate to and remember. And if someone for some reason has to leave, at least they've gotten the bottom line of your message. What is it that you want them to take away at the end of your talk?
So, and Andy Stanley does this so well, is that he'll actually repeat the bottom line so many times
throughout the talk,
that you actually kind of get irritated with it. You're like, okay, we get the point.
Oh, jeez, bro.
But what he said is that so many times people will come back to him years later and say, hey, I remember that one talk you gave. It was this. And it's just that one sentence they repeat, the bottom line.
The bottom line, yeah. So the bottom line is so important. And then the second sort of point in his framework is, why do they need to know it? Why is it that people need to know this? And the reason for our whys could be so different. It could be motivation, inspiration, or whatever it may be. But understand why people need to know what you're talking about. Why is this important for me? Why is this important for you? And so that's so crucial when you're preparing a talk or giving a talk to people. Third sort of point is, okay, so now I know what you've said. What do I do with it? How do I apply this knowledge into my life? How is it that I can apply this? And this is so crucial. There's nothing worse than listening to such a nice message. I feel so inspired, so motivated. Oh my God, I'm gonna, I just feel so puffy and glorious on the inside. I was like, okay, cool. What do I do now?
Yeah.
And there's nothing worse than like, okay, what's next? And so it's so important when giving a talk, tell people what you want them to hear, inspire them, motivate them, whatever it is, but then tell them, okay, this is what you do next. This is how you apply what I've just said to you.
What Andy Stanley does so well is he'll say something, and he in the why, he almost like creates like a light bulb moment for you. You're like, flip, I'm this person. I have this problem. So you almost have people on the edge of their seats saying, okay, but do you have the answer for me? Like, what do I do next? Like, okay, what's the solution? Give me, you've convinced me that there's a problem in my life or that I need to do something. Like, I'm thinking in the business environment, you've convinced me that I need to work harder, but how do I work harder?
How do I work harder? Yeah. And so I think that is so important. Give people your why, but then tell them, okay, this is what you do next. And then another important thing, and this is his fourth point, is why do they need to do it? why is it? So you've told them why they need this information. You've told them what they need to do, but now you're telling them why do they need to do that specific thing that you're telling them that they need to do. So it's just casting out a vision, casting out that direction, saying, hey, this is why you need to do it. This is why we do what we do. And just explaining to them the why is so crucial.
Is this the stage in his talk? And we've both watched the video. And what I'm actually going to do is, if you look at the show notes, I'm going to link to a video where he talks about how to give a talk, because he elaborates on this quite nicely. But usually at this and the why do they need to do it, he, if I'm not mistaken, he usually says, imagine a world where so-and-so did this. Am I getting ahead of us or is this the part where he does that?
Yeah, this is the part.
Okay, so what he'll often do is say, okay, now imagine a world where everyone in the company is working really hard. I'm just using a really simple idea. But he starts to he's created a problem. He's given you the solution to the problem. He's told you how you're going to solve the problem. And then he said, now imagine a world where the problem is non-existent, where we've solved this problem.
And that's so helpful, because now everyone wants to work towards solving the problem. And so I think it's a brilliant thing of casting out the why. Hey, this is why you need to do what you got to do. And this is why it's going to be helpful for you, for the organization, for whoever you're giving the talk to. And fifth and final point is, how can you help people remember? And reiteration is so important. So repeat. And you repeat your bottom line. And that's why you even said that you listen to Andy Stanley and you be like, yeah, bro, I know. But it's so helpful because you repeat what you've been saying. You're repeating your main point so that people always understand.
As irritating as it is, I do remember.
Yeah, and you end up remembering. And I even got to thinking, very good communicators will tell you something new, and you'll find yourself being like, yeah, I know, but I mean, it's not that they think you don't know, but it's important for them to say it again so that you remember in future. So reiterate.
So here's an interesting thing, and this is quite a controversial figure at the moment, but Donald Trump will often end, he speaks so strangely, but he'll often end his sentences with the word that he wants to have the most impact in the sentence. And I'm not going to try imitate how he talks, but it's just so interesting how to make his speeches memorable, he always has the impactful word at the end of the sentence instead of in the middle somewhere. And that's why he talks so strangely.
And I mean, I guess there are so many different ways of making your talk impactful or memorable or helping people remember it. So it's just so crucial to find what works for you, but do that. Repeat, so people can always understand and remember what you're saying.
Yeah. And I don't know if you've ever watched the World Speech Championships. It's quite an incredible thing what these guys do. Like the one guy, he got up and he just started smoking. And his whole speech was on why it's bad to smoke. Well, I can't remember if it was bad to smoke or good to smoke. I can't remember. Yeah. But I didn't watch the whole speech. But immediately he had an illustration or a prop to demonstrate, hey, this is how I'm going to make my speech memorable. Again, my boss, he's really good at this. And again, our company was still going through a tough time. So he bought everyone in the company hard hats, like building hats, bright orange. And he said to everyone, he's like, hey, if you ever need help, you put your hard hat on, because that means you're being tormented by issues and trouble. And if you ever need help, you put your hard hat on, and then everyone around you will know that they need to come help you. But that's a way of making that speech memorable, was by giving out a physical item.
Yeah.
And I know this is something that Andy Stanley does really well as well. For what they'll often do in their church for series, because he is a church leader at the end of the day, he did a series on money, and hey, at the end of the day, the money you own is God's money. And if you're not a believer, this is a strange idea for you, but I'm just giving an example of how he makes his talks memorable. What they ended up doing is giving out $30,000 at that service. So they gave anywhere between $5 and $50, I think, to their congregants. And they said, here's a note in your hand. You physically have this note in your hand. It's not yours, though. Go do something to extend God's kingdom with it. And how's that for making memorable?
That's crazy. That is crazy. And honestly, there's so many different ways. I mean, some people use handouts, some people, and whatever it is, but find that and make your talk memorable. Yeah. That's actually so cool.
And I think another mistake a lot of people make is using visuals badly. Visuals can be so powerful.
Yeah.
But when you have more than 30 words or so on a slide, it starts to get a bit like,
what are we doing?
Yeah, why are we reading? I thought we were at a speech.
Yeah,
could have been an email.
What are you doing? Grade 2?
Yes. But I mean, visuals can be so powerful.
Yeah.
And like, you'll see this often in TED Talks.
Yeah.
These guys often use visuals really, really effectively.
Yeah.
It's often just a simple slide just to back up the point that they're trying to make at that given time in their speech.
Yeah, definitely.
Is there anything else you want to add?
For me, that's it. I think that's as much as I could say at this current moment. But if you wanna like get clarification or whatever, why don't you send us an email or leave a comment? And we'd love to talk to you about. But that reminds me, huge announcements, massive announcements. So for Precipice, we are launching our website. So if you go to any of our social media pages, and I mean, if you're listening to this, you're probably on the website. So if you're on a streaming platform, our website is www.precipice.co.za. We would love to have you there, have you share it, and just connect with us on that website. And it's easier for us to communicate with you and you communicate with us. Yeah.
And on that website, like, of course, you can find all the latest episodes. You can find like notes on the episodes. It really is a great place to listen to the podcast. But we've added another page on that website, and that page is speaking. Now, if you just go to the website and click on speaking, it'll take you to a page where you can actually apply to have either Mtoko or myself speak at your event, whether that be a school event, a business event, or whatever event it may be, and you're needing speakers. You can apply to get Mtoko or myself to speak at your event and talk. How are you feeling about that?
Listen, I'm so keen, and I'm excited to see where this takes us, and I'm excited for this new direction that Precipice is going on. So yeah, I'm 100% chuffed.
Yeah, I'm so excited to see where Precipice goes next. When Mtoko and I initially started Precipice, the whole idea was to help people become more effective and to redefine success. So we didn't actually say how we were going to do that. And one of the most effective ways to do that was through the podcast. We've done it a bit through Instagram, but at the end of the day, we want to teach people how to become more effective and how to redefine success. So for us, the natural step to reach more people is just to offer ourselves to talk publicly. And what a better episode to announce that in our public communication episode.
Honestly, so it's crazy. I mean, I can promise you we did not plan this out. It's just coincidence that we're announcing the website.
Going against our own advice.
It's crazy. But yeah. Awesome. Ross, thank you so much, brother.
No, thank you, Mtoko. You've really been incredible sharing with us and imparting your expertise and all your knowledge on public communication.
Yeah, this has been so cool, and we're so excited to continue next week when we speak about public communication.
Yeah.
Have a good one. Dig you. Goodbye.
It's been real.